Hey man, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad. How are you, Tom?
Very good, mate. Thank you. Very good. Just got back from a weekend in Oslo, in Norway. I mean, we're talking about it on the way here. Doing our little trips. I know you said to me earlier that you went to Oxford, right?
Yeah, I did last Thursday actually. Went to see a mate who studies here. We live studying together, student accommodation just at St David's, and he was doing a year abroad in Guadeloupe teaching English to kids. He does history and French at Exeter, so I went to see him because he lives down there. Then I met someone else actually, a student from Oxford who does languages, and apart from this podcast today, I'm going to be going on another one next week because he does a podcast called Language Nut, and he focuses on just the process of learning languages and everything about them. So I'll be going on that and talking too, but we'll focus on today though. And to be honest, mate, it was the first time in a while I actually went traveling within the UK anywhere. Because I got a bit of criticism from my mom in the past that the fact that I've been here 4 years and I've not even explored. I've not been down to Cornwall, not really been around Devon unless it was a fixture in a Devon Football League with a uni, and I've not really gone around the southwest or beyond unless I had a fixture against that uni and travel was funded for and taken into account. And it was good to have a getaway, especially I submitted my essay on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, I made that daily trip, and it was very nice. I got a tour of the colleges, even got to see alpacas. There was like a mini. It wasn't a social. It was an event for students at Oxford, and I sort of got myself in there, pretended to be one for a day or for an hour even. And if people do want to see some photos, they're on my Instagram now. Just posted them yesterday. It was very nice, very lovely, and probably, and I did mention it to you on the way here. It might be the most gorgeous city I've seen in the UK so far, at least from what I've seen. I've not got a vast choice of places to pick from, but definitely up there, but extremely expensive, I would say.
Yeah, I've not been to Oxford, so I can't say in terms of its beauty.
Have you not?
No, never been.
But you're not that far, like, you're not ages away, but was it an hour trip from where you're from?
What, in Cambridge?
Yeah, to Oxford, it's probably an hour from there.
Yeah, I don't know my geography that well in terms of the distance between Cambridge and Oxford. But I've never really just wanted to go, I mean, similar to you, weird enough, I've not done a massive amount of trips in the UK other than the last couple of years, I'd say, like last 2 years. I mean, I've never been to Liverpool and I support the team, but I'm actually going there for the first time in July.
How are you?
Yeah, so me and a friend that I've known, actually probably the guy I've known the longest in my life, we're going for like a little weekend together, just to catch up and just to see how things are and, try to enjoy Liverpool and see around there. I think we're going to try and do a thing when we're all just together to do like a leg day in the gym. So we do like Bulgarian split squats and stuff. I'm talking about those.
Bulgarian split squats are created to murder people, for those who don't know, and make their life atrocious for the next 3 days. But then if you do it consistently, you have lovely looking quads.
Yeah, we basically want to just murder each other and, have a good time after.
Wait, so you'll do Bulgarian split squats and then go to Liverpool?
No, we're doing that at Liverpool. We'll probably go to like a gym for get like a day trial sort of thing or whatever you can do up there.
The onset muscle soreness will kick once you're back.
Yeah, basically, yeah. We did it last year. We went to Middlesbrough when I went up to go and see him. We did it and we started doing like hiking and stuff.
After the leg day.
Yeah, we're basically dying. It was so fun though.
If you did it right after, it's alright. But if you did it the next day, that's some resilience required, I think.
Yeah, we're pretty mental. But it's a bit of fun. We used to do these challenges when we used to play Xbox together, like FIFA, like pro clubs and stuff. Like every time we would concede a goal, we had to do like 10 push-ups and stuff. So if we lose like 5-0 or something in a game, we're basically getting like huge chest pump from the amount of push-ups we're doing. And yeah, it's just fun, a bit of exercise.
So if you lose 5-0, it's 50 push-ups?
Yeah.
And if you don't concede, then you're fine?
And we're good.
Oh, great. I'd never have to do anything. I'd still be small.
Yeah, it says a lot.
I'm pretty good at... Shocking. Absolutely shocking, Tom.
No, I love you.
But you went to Norway, though, and I think you've got much more to tell about that than... You mentioned briefly what you got up to on the way here, but I'd actually love to hear more specifically what sites you saw, what you got up to. Do you keep your routine there, or do you accustom for a later go to bed time? And
so when I got over there on the Friday evening, I settled in, and then I messaged an old friend, someone I knew from my second year at uni. She's from Oslo, and she invited me to this house party. Just out of the blue, I was like, yeah. I messaged her to say if she wanted to meet up. She was like, yeah, I'm going to a house party. You're welcome to come along. So I went to that, and I got to meet all of her Norwegian friends who were absolutely lovely, absolutely lovely and welcoming. I mean, and for me, with house parties and stuff, I'm not the biggest fan sometimes, because sometimes you go there and they're always loud and you can't really hear yourself think, you can't have a conversation. But no, it was completely opposite of what I was thinking it was going to be. So I really enjoyed that. And I got to meet some people there who sort of like told me what to try and do while I'm in Oslo, because they're obviously from the city. They can recommend to foreigners and to people that want to see around the city. So then, went home. Got home like really late, like 12:30, which, for me that is quite late. So
halfway through your night.
It is halfway through my for my sleep cycle. But I woke up at like 9:30, and then what did I do? I pretty much walked to the fjords and walked around there. So that's like the main part of Oslo, the city. Went to the National Museum. Went to a old type of fortress that's been there since like the 13th century, and it's got really really quite detailed like history and lore about like its time during the Nazi occupation and being liberated from the Nazis, towards the conclusion of World War II. And then what else did I do that day? I basically just did a lot of walking, really. There's like a little island. There's a little bit of the peninsula of Oslo. So I walked onto that, and that took me about 2 hours. Sat down by this Viking boat museum that's closed, but it was quite nice to sit down and look on to the coast and to look around and look at the little islands around Oslo that you can get a boat to, which I didn't do, but it was still just so absolutely beautiful to look at them. That was basically my Saturday. Sunday rolled around, and I went to this place called Vetterkollen, which was basically a climbing hiking part of Oslo. Like when you get to it, you can actually look on the entire city from this viewpoint. So I walked up to there, but unfortunately it was completely foggy, so I couldn't see absolutely anything. But I mean, to be honest with you, it was still worth the walk, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, everyone else that was going up there as well was just so friendly and so lovely. Like I kept saying hello, like trying to, my Norwegian for hello to everyone, and they always said hello back and always had a smile on their face, and people running up there, which was pretty cool to see that. Like really steep incline and really like bouldery rockies, like you'd get in Dartmoor for us in Devon. So I loved that, really enjoyed it. Went back and got to meet up with my friend and her other friend, and we went out for some food. And that was pretty much it. Just more walking and trying to see as much as I could, really, And then Monday, got back on the train back to Lufthaven, the airport from the main one in Oslo. And just sitting out. I actually remember the feeling, just like looking out of the train and just feeling really gutted that I was going back, because I loved it so much. And I don't think I've done it justice for how much I got to see and enjoy of it, but I don't mind it because I know how good it felt for me. Does that make sense?
No, for sure. Does it rank up there for you?
Number one so far. I mean, I was saying to my boss and to my dad yesterday, it was like the feeling that I got when I came to Exeter for the first time in 2019. It was that feeling like, wow, this place is amazing. I want to come back here like as soon as I can, really. I'll definitely be going back again. I'm looking at flights next May, June time. Hopefully I can try and get my family to come along with me as well. That'd be quite nice.
That'll be cool.
It would be really cool. I mean, especially for like, because my brother hasn't ever travelled. I mean, I was mentioning to you earlier, we're going to Portugal in November, and that's with him. But I'm pretty sure that's his first time abroad, which is actually quite impressive, because he's 19 now, and I was never going abroad at 19. So like the fact that he's got that chance is quite nice,
So your first time was at what, 24, 23?
24. Yeah, 24. So a bit of a difference between 5 years. And then I'd like to see him take my dad abroad as well, because he's not been abroad since 1998, which was my uncle's first marriage, I think, in France. So it's been quite a while for him, and I'd like to see him, enjoy another country and also just be with his family. I think that was quite nice to be able to talk to him about it yesterday. So yeah,
we talked about it on the way here, that you didn't get the opportunity to go abroad until very late. I was actually quite the opposite. I basically not traveled the world, that'd be a bit too much, but been to a lot of places. before the age of 12. It was very young, and half of it I don't remember. For example, I've been, how do you call the thing that babies get carried in when you push it across?
Pushchair.
Yeah, pushchair. I visited the Eiffel Tower like twice in it, I think. Can't remember a single time. It's probably rolled up in the lift. And things like that. And I've not really, well, I've been abroad obviously, but it's always the two same destinations, which is either home for me back in Moscow or one of the two intermediate locations that are open to me, which are Turkey and Serbia at the moment. Because as a lot of my friends would know and my girlfriend would know that I can't go within the Schengen area because, the passport's very weak, and at the moment it's not impossible, but rather difficult to get that visa, and to be completely frank, not entirely worth it sometimes, because if I do apply, I will be receiving it for one trip only, which at the end of the day will defeat the purpose of it, because it'll cost way too much for what it is. And being here in Exeter is a bit far from the embassies. If next year I'll be based in London, so that could be a bit easier, when it's only going to be a few tube stops to the embassy rather than a whole 3-hour journey and £100 both ways, or 70 for the train, and then obviously the tube as well. So I went to most of the countries in Europe before the age of 12, and ironically, Norway is the only Nordic country I've not been to. So I've been to Finland, Denmark, and Sweden. I was rather fortunate. When I was 5, I went to Legoland in Copenhagen, so that was really fun. In Sweden, I went to Stockholm for a bit, and then a very small place called Mora, and a small Christmas theme park called Tomteland. That was I was 5, I was 6. It was wonderful adventures. It's what you dream of as a kid. But then Finland wasn't as great for me. I broke my leg on day 3.
How did you manage to break your leg?
I was 4. I was cross-country skiing with my mom and my dad. And, well, when you're 4, you're not completely independent in your range of motion. But it was a cross-country track, but it was a track designed for professionals who go to the Olympics, do biathlon and stuff. I have no idea how we ended up there. No idea why we went there, but we did, and some tourists did as well. And for adults, it's probably completely fine, but not for a 4-year-old kid. So usually my dad would sort of send me from the top, not the hill, but a mini hill. My mom would catch me at the bottom. You really wouldn't use sticks. It would be just your skis and then your hands. There was one day when my mom was busy, I think she was feeling a bit unwell, and it was just me and my dad. So my dad sent me from the top, and then no one caught me at the bottom. And I somehow twisted my ankle and, broke my bone. It was fun experience, and obviously I speak sarcastically here because I basically had to learn to walk again. If you break your leg at 4, you've only just about learned to walk, so it takes a while to get back into it. And well, obviously I don't remember any of it, but when I asked my dad, he said it was very hard to watch because they were a bit worried at first how easy it would be for me to start walking again, and it didn't take too long. But when it did happen, it was probably a rather stressful experience for my parents, and just generally, more broadly speaking, I mean, me as a kid, me in hospital had a love-hate relationship. It was just constant broken bones, constant flus, different type of illnesses that just kept sticking to me when I was 14, 12, 10, 15. It's like playing football at lunchtime, main source of injury, probably for most people. All those things, and I mean, many know in Moscow in winter it's plus 20, not plus. Well,
I said, bloody hell, that's not winter.
Yeah, minus 25, minus 30, and I was a swimmer, so if you don't dry your hair properly, bit of wind, bit of air, don't dry it properly, you get ear infections, nose infections, flus, whatever. And it was always like, Mum, I feel again, Mum, I've broken my bone again. It was like up until 16, maybe 17, and then it just all went away. Then when you come to uni, you come to a different country, don't entirely love the NHS. I think I speak for a lot of people here. And when you realise you just got no right to get ill anymore or get injured, and the only things you're really allowed to is small injuries, which can cure by itself, because if you're in trouble, no one's coming to save you. I think that somehow subconsciously flicked a switch in me. I became much more careful, and touch wood, of course. Didn't have anything major at uni, not really, and with health-wise, maybe a few bruises here and there from football, but nothing bad, thank God. And despite the fact I'd play or train basically every day next to my studies, and I would say that I put a lot of effort to look after myself, because people see the outside. When I keep posting on Instagram that I've done another marathon, we'll get onto it because obviously me and you have both done one 2 weeks ago. He's done another half marathon. He's played this game. He's done this marathon. He's done another competition. He's gone here. He's gone there. He's doing it a few days consequently, one after another. People don't see what you do behind the scenes because people think you're not an athlete. You're still a student. You're not doing a performance sport, even if it's bucks. But I put a lot of work behind the scenes, just stretching, just preparing my muscles, just getting ready for that. So then I could go and do 3-4 events in a row, sometimes without any preparation, post it on the Instagram, and everyone's like, yeah, wow, he's a beast. He doesn't look after himself, and he somehow gets it all pulled off, Not really. I mean, you put a lot of effort as well. And I think a marathon is something we might want to speak of. And I'm sorry, I've been rambling for too long. But
Mate, no, it's not about me. It's about you. You're the episode. You're the guest of this episode, so it's your chance to talk.
Yeah. However, a marathon is a common experience. I think we've done. So, should we move on that?
Yeah. Well, happily to talk about marathons. I mean, we did ours 2 weeks ago. When you just mentioned it was 2 weeks ago. It's crazy to think that's gone that quick. And I was actually saying it. I think I was saying it to my dad yesterday about the advice we got from one of those guys who came third place when we went to get an ice cream after. He was talking about eating eating your gels ahead of time and actually training quite hard for it, sort of in a way like you do a long run and then do quite quick runs, sort of thing. Do you remember him saying that? And that was pretty good advice to take in. I signed up to another one, so I'm doing another one in September back at home in the county that I'm from, Cambridgeshire. So that'd be quite nice. I'm looking at doing some next year, and hopefully going to do the Paris one with. Did you ever meet? I don't think you ever met Will. You might know. I think you met Will.
I shared a seminar with him in Will Higgs.
Yeah,
I've met him.
So hopefully me and him will be able to do a marathon together in Paris.
Is he into running as well then?
Yeah, I think he's done a few half marathons. I don't think he's done a marathon yet, but it's that thing of when you do it for the first time, it's like, when's the next one, sort of thing, So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that with him. When I went to France, actually, we were talking about the countries and stuff earlier. We did a couple of runs with him together, and I ran with his dad as well, which was pretty fun. Like me and him were running like 6:30 in the morning when it's pissing down with rain, and it was just such a surreal experience, running with your mate's dad, which was fun. Which is also one of the things I love about running in general. Is like it can be such a good way of spending time with people. I know like sometimes you can absolutely beast yourself and you don't really talk, but like it's nice to sort of share that experience with someone. Do you know what I mean? Like when we did the marathon together and we were waiting at the end and we all got to get our photos together, it's quite a nice accomplishment. How did you find it being your first one?
It feels great, honestly. Like I had no preparation at all. Literally the most I ever ran before, ironically, because I'll get onto it, I did a half marathon as well a few days ago, but I did a marathon before doing a half marathon. So the most I ever ran before that was 17 kilometers just on my own in the middle of April. And I think me and you also did a run with about 14, 15 kilometers. So I went straight into it. And first 20, and I went out way too fast. I went out with a good pace, but then after sort of 25, 26K, it's the famous wall, I sort of hit it. And it wasn't about stamina, it was about legs. My calf started to cramp quite a bit, and it was tough. And then it was sunny as well in the morning, if you remember. We put sunscreen. Well, I had to borrow yours. Actually, I still got it. I need to return it to you. So I accidentally stole it from you. But anyway, we put the sunscreen. We thought it would be sunny the whole time. And then it was boiling the first 20K, 25 for some who were faster. And it just started pouring rain. And then all the sunscreen, everything. And then there's these corners. For a lot of the time, you run through the crowd. So they're cheering you on. It's fun. It's a good, supportive environment. But there's those corners which are just so lonely. There's one down near at St. David's where you sort of go to the end and there's no marshals and no one. And then when you get there, I don't know if you felt that way, you just want to get out of there. You sort of want to finish that corner, run as fast as you can and just get rid of those spaces and sort of get back into the places where there's people, where you're surrounded by people. Because in those corners, they're probably the most miserable ones. And if you get through those, that's when you really beat yourself. That's when you really push through it. Because those are the hardest corners for me. It's not even about the distance; it's about those places where it's just you and your thoughts and your running. Because a lot of the time, especially by mile 20, you separate from the pack, and someone is in front of you, someone's behind you. There could be one or two people around you, but for at least maybe 20 to 30 yards forwards and back, it's just you. Just because of it's not that many people. There's only 250 people running the marathon, and over the space of 42 kilometers, that spreads across very much. And if you get through those corners, you're fine. And then once you get closer and closer, you get to it. For me, it was the cramping. My calves cramp really did not help my time overall, because that's something they were just not ready for. Because stamina wise, I was a swimmer, a professional swimmer in high school, so my stamina can handle it. Even not training for a week or two, I've still got it. It's the legs that need to get acquainted with the pressure, and they need to get used to the running technique. And I think I've done better recently to sort of engage more of my glutes, engage more of the hamstrings, because in the past I had not an incorrect but a very damaging running technique towards the calves, because I would put too much pressure on the lower part of my legs. And
So how were you running on the balls of your feet or the back of your heels?
yeah, probably. But even you remember the first run me and you went to, I kept complaining about like the higher Achilles, lower calves when we went uphill, and they would inflammate quite badly, and then I'd get shin splints as well. So over the sort of month, I may have not done as much volume as I should have had, but it allowed me to adjust the technique in the right way, which allowed me to get through the marathon. And if not for the calves, it would have probably been an even better time, probably much better time. I did it in 4.5 hours, which I think for a first marathon with no preparation, I'd probably take.
Mate, that's very good time.
Yeah, I very much was happy with that. And I had an essay due the next day, so I I went home. Well, we both of us got a Francomanca pizza for free, which was included in the marathon entry fee. Well, not entry fee, but if you finished it, you get one. And then I went home, did the essay, and because of doing the marathon, I felt so good that it sort of pushed me through the essay as well. I just used that positive spirit to just reinvent myself as a writer on the same day, and I think that was a very productive day at the end of it all. When I woke up the next day, it was like, wow, all right.
You think you can do another one?
Oh yeah, most certainly. I mean, while you were away in Norway, I went on and did the half marathon as well, the Great Western Run, because it was the only race. Well, I sort of hinted towards it, I think, at the beginning that I'll be leaving in a few months from Exeter, and the Great Western Run was the last one I hadn't ticked off around here, because I did most of the 10k and 5 mile races around here. I did the marathon, obviously, the half marathon, and specifically the Great Western Run was the last one I hadn't done. So I went on to do that on the weekend. Did it after a football tournament, so that again wasn't entirely reasonable. I wasn't exactly prepared, but again, it was really fun, and it was also much more attended. Like, there was way greater numbers compared to what we ran 2 weeks ago. From what was said, it was about 4,000 people, I think, that were there that day. That was across the half marathon and the 10k.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, it was incredible. And the running happened to the running track. It went through the city, so it started at the Exeter Arena down at Paulslow Bridge. So I took a train there in the morning, and then you start from there, and you get onto city centre. You go through Sidwell Street, Queen Street. You go through Northern Hay Gardens. They do like a small mini circle there, and then you sort of head towards Imperial all the way here to the bottom of not Forum Hill but Renner's Drive. Then you go all the way around campus and come back, and then you go around through the campus. Basically, you go through the main facilities and the main places around town, and you get DJs, you get loads of crowds. People are feeding sweets for maybe the slower runners who are willing to stop and maybe have some. Plenty of water stations. It was wonderful, and very different vibe to the marathon we did, the ones with the Community Trust. Not to say anything wrong against them, they're wonderful as well. But it was truly an occasion, I think. And because it runs through the streets that you would normally just walk through, I thought that was very interesting. You find, oh wow, okay. I walk. There's a shop I go to. I buy food here. There's the Tesco. There's my barber where I go to, and so on. That's where I buy my data pack, and it's quite interesting. It was a different experience. Closed roads. It was fun, and personally, it was my favorite race just because of the sheer occasion. And at the end, I ended up, when I got to the finish line and I got my medal, and I realised there was lots more people who I knew from Exeter University, and it was great taking pictures, talking to people, and you get a finisher's shirt as well, a very lovely one, so you can wear those whenever after the marathon. It was quite expensive though. It cost me £40, so exactly the same as
Marathon.
no, the half marathon. Yeah.
That's how much. Yeah, for the half marathon one. The marathon's like 42. 40.
Yeah. So this one was similar to that, but you also get a shirt, you get the medal. It was probably expensive just because of how it's organised, just because of the sheer amount of staff involved in the process, and the medal was quite big. It was very nice. Really
It's always quite interesting to see the different costs in like marathons and stuff. Like if you do it in the smaller cities compared to like the major cities like London, Amsterdam, France. What else have I looked? I think those are the main ones I've looked at so far. It's like 40 odd quid for Exeter, where it's like 150, 160 in like London or something. You know, it's crazy the difference. I mean, obviously I know it goes towards the organising and stuff, but I think it's just that they can sell a lot because it's that big city thing.
And it's because of what you see when you run. But even within Exeter, if you look at the race of the Community Trust, or there's one which I did, it was called the Exeter City 10K from a different organisation, they both start from the quay and they go through sort of towards Marsh Barton, towards Double Locks, and you don't really require to close any roads. They go through basically the running routes and the cycling routes, so you don't really need to close any roads. You don't really need to do that much in preparation. You just put the signs, you reallocate the marshals in the right position so you don't get lost on the track. You put the water stations. With the Great Western Run, you had to close off roads, you had to disrupt the movement of cars, you had to really prepare for this, and I think that's where the cost arises from. And leading on to that, you mentioned London, Paris, the big cities. Well, there's even more behind the scenes work that has to be conducted, and even more disruption that causes too. Because here, for the Great Western Run, I mean, you wouldn't really do a half marathon if you can't do it in 4 hours. But the cut-off time was 4 hours, and that's 4 hours. For the London Marathon, the cut-off time, I think, is the day. It was on the news on BBC or Sky at the end of this year's London Marathon. A guy finished it at 7 p.m. or something like that. So it took him 10, 11 hours, and I think he lost conscience twice, but really just was very motivated to finish it and ended up almost crawling across the finish line. And you have to keep the roads closed, so it's a whole day event which disrupts the city's normal working, and I think that's where the costs arise from. I put myself in the ballot for next year's London Marathon. Well, the likelihood of me getting it is tiny, but if I do, it'll be amazing.
That would be really good.
What I should have done now is buy lots of entries through, my girlfriend's account, my parents' account, like people who are not going to run, who I can just use, to get the ballot. Now that I think about it, that's how I used to get World Cup tickets back in the day. But anyway, we'll see if I get it. If not, London in that way is even better than the small cities. I looked on the website Let's Do It, which is where we purchase all of our races. And if you are interested, that's the website to go to. There's literally one every week in London, and they're all in very close proximity. Not the big ones, but there's always a 10K you can partake in. So you can basically race as much as you want. There are more races than you have time as an adult. So there's plenty to pick from, and that's something I'm sure I'll pursue. But going forward, I see myself doing triathlon as well, doing Ironman, because swimming is considered the harder bit of that, and for me it's going to be the easiest one because I've done it my whole life. The only problem with that is cost relation. I mean, that now becomes very expensive.
It's like over $1,000, isn't it, or something like that?
It's not the sign-up fee; it's just how much you have to invest into it. You need a bike, you need a wetsuit, you need a set of running shoes. Okay, you've got that already. You probably need more, which I'm not aware of yet. But
you
even
also
with
need a lot of time as well.
No, exactly. So it's a full-time commitment. Realistically, if you are to do an Ironman or a triathlon, I mean, some people do things to just take part. That doesn't work for me. That's not how I'm wired. But if you're going to do that you do that and the job, and that's probably about it. There isn't that much time for anything else, and it's a question of how important it is to you. I would want to mention as well, people talk about running being a cheap sport. Well, now that you think of it, I mean, we talked to the guy, since you brought it up, and he advised of using gels every sort of 30 minutes per run. If you're doing a marathon, every 30 minutes you consume a gel. And if you want to experiment with them and you want to nail your ability to use them efficiently and time the consumption correctly, you got to use loads of them. And again, that's cost related. So even running doesn't become that cheap of a sport. But I think it's still great, and I think people spend much more than they know on just nights out and club trips. So when you bring it up in perspective, you bring up a cost of a marathon, you say 40 quid, and then you bring the gels, altogether maybe 50, 60 quid. Then people look, wow, no.
That's half of someone's night out.
Yeah, and then they go out and spend like £15 on the drink in the club. I don't know. And then it never really like annoyed me, but I never understood it because I've been a box club captain, so I'm club captain of futsal this year, and I've played box football as well throughout my whole time. And you'd always have those mates who they'd be really good, and they'd go through the trials, and then they'd be like, no, I'm not paying a membership, and the membership would be about 200 quid for the year, which will include training sessions, traveling to games, the games themselves, even a bit of stash in there, and obviously the experience of being part of the competitive squad. Then they'd go out and spend a quarter of that on one night, and you just think about it, like, is the price really the cost, or you just cannot be asked?
Especially, you
And
can't be
that's
asked. Some things that I've realised, and you realise when you start working full time, is actually being good with money feels like an extra income. It sounds weird, but like realising by living cheaply how much money you actually have in your bank account is quite a nice thing, quite a big thing as well. So going back to what we were just saying just a minute ago of people spending all this money on nights out or having expensive bills, like a really expensive phone, expensive car bills, drinking a lot, smoking, going out, whatever sort of thing. It's like actually realising that by saving a lot of money and being good with money, you actually do have quite a lot of opportunity for yourself. Like if I was to be someone who drinks a lot, I probably wouldn't have had the chances to go abroad like I've had, or I wouldn't be able to have saved as much money as I have, sort of thing. It's just realising how important it is to be, how important it is to be good with your money.
I think so, and yeah, I think so, and I forgot what I was gonna say. No, I do agree. I mean, you told me probably the best example of how to spend money. You do it probably more efficiently than anyone I've ever met.
Thank you.
No, generally, because that's something I'm become much better, but I always, if I go out for a meal with friends, I'd sometimes spend more on an extra coffee or something that I probably should have. And then you look back and you're like, oh, why?
Yeah, but you're like, 12 years old, so you're fine, mate. You're young, you've got plenty of time. I mean, you're 22, 21?
21.
Yeah,
22
mate.
in August.
Mate, when I was your age, I was, I sound like a proper old fart when I say that, but like, I was pretty bad with my money when I was 21, 22. Like, I mean, I was into buying video games, and they rack up a lot of prices. I mean, they're not as bad. They're bad now, but they were still pretty bad back then, like 40, 50 quid a game sort of thing. And yeah, just you're supposed to, you're going to go for those phases of being stupid with money, and then you get old and you realise actually you get better with it.
And it's quite interesting because that's how my brain works. Because if you are consistent with dieting and gym, you actually end up saving money because you're not consuming anything that is not favouring your gym progress. And when you realise you've bought chicken, rice from Tesco, a bunch of eggs, avocados, toast, and whatever, you look at your bill at the end of the week and it's not even that much. Because you look, like the chicken packs, cost you £5, but it's lasted you 2-3 days. So, it's not that bad. You look at it, you don't actually spend that much. So, it's a weird one, but the more you work and train, the less you spend.
And
which is a weird one, but it's also true.
And also things like you're not going to the dentist as much, so you're not paying for appointments, or you're not going to the hospital and picking up tablets because you're not ill as much. So you're actually in good health and in good shape.
It accumulates.
It does accumulate.
Because everything is just one after another, and like the more you do is the more you work, the more you make, and also the less you spend.
You mentioned earlier about football. I have not actually asked you how did the World Cup go on Saturday.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. There's things which we're proud of, things we're not entirely proud of, things that went well, things that didn't. So I. Forgive me for bragging, but last year was a really good one for me. You were there actually, Tom, doing the filming. I created an artificial team. By artificial, I mean completely last minute. Drafted all the best players I could. We came second. Called it Team UAE. Finished with a silver boot last year. Impressed my future girlfriend. That was really the aim last year, to go and impress my future girlfriend. Shout out to Cornelia if you ever hear this. But this year it was different. This year I was playing for Poland because they've become my friends. This year it was even my committee job. I'm actually wearing right now a black shirt, which is my new Polish sock stash, which gives the role of football captain, which I was on the committee this year, and they've all became my great friends. I'll talk about the society a bit more, but yeah, I was playing with them. I was captaining the side for the World Cup, and we did okay. The aim was always to go through the group because the society's never done it before. It was similar to realistically the real Poland in the real World Cup. That's usually always the minimum for them. And the society's never done it before. Last year they were crushed in the World Cup before I used to play for them, and this year they improved dramatically. Well, we did. I was very proud of how I built the team up. We didn't start as well in term one. We only won, I think, 2 or 3 games in term one in the intramural and came sort of 5th or 6th out of 8. But then the second term went tremendously better. We won all games but one, finished 2nd in the intramural league, and also won a few friendlies. So it was a big improvement. So we were going into World Cup thinking we'd do quite well. And it didn't start well. We lost 3-1 in the first game to, I think it was San Marino.
Is this on Saturday, right?
Yeah, that was all on Saturday. It was a one-day World Cup, group staged and knockouts. It was traditional Euro format, so second and first go through from each group, and then 4 out of 6 best third place teams go through. So exactly the same as you would have on the Euros. We were in a group with San Marino, China, and USA. We lost the USA at San Marino, but for the Chinese game we won 4-0, so it racked up our goal difference tremendously. And we were third, but we were the best third team of all the third teams, so we comfortably advanced anyway because of that 4-0 victory over China, which was fueled heavily by me and Dominic starting quite a big scrap with the Chinese. They're lovely people, but what happened was Dominic went through on goal after quite a bit of good dribbling, got himself taken out from behind, stood up, chased the guy down the line. In what type of player would do that? Maybe prime Sergio Ramos sort of thing. Chase down the guy.
Diego Costa.
Yeah, Diego Costa. Well, not as much because I don't really see Diego Costa getting to a tackle, but he chased him down the line, absolutely 2-footed the guy from the left-hand side, and then there was a big brawl, and me and Dominic, as traditional representatives of the Eastern European race, decided to inspire our troops, and that's a quote from Dominic. And joined into the thing, and at the end of it all, the team got inspired to ended up scoring 4 goals, advanced into the next round as one of the better third place teams. Then we faced, ironically, one of the favourites, or if I'm being completely arrogant, I can call them Mikhail Derby, because we were playing Brazil, who are the futsal boys who I've been coaching this year. It was a mixture of 1s and 2s, and we improved a lot than what we did in the group stage. We lost 1-0, but it was by far our best performance. There was not much expectation that we could advance, and I set up a team in a low block, put myself at centre back, and marked man for man their best player, and we really dug deep and held a 0-0 up until the end, and we had loads of our chances as well, but they had a 1-through ball, and one of their best players scored the winner. So Brazil advanced through. We knocked out in the last 16, but we came very close. And one of our players called Daniel, one of our freshers, he came close on a number of occasions, and he was very upset after the game, having not converted them, because we did create more opportunities than perhaps we expected to against Brazil, and really could have gone through. This year at the Euros, there were a number of teams that finished third in the group and they advanced. I think Netherlands came third at the Euros, in the real Euros, and went up until the semi-final. And we're close to beating England in the semi-final. Portugal won the Euros from third place in 2016. So, third place doesn't exactly mean you're going to be out the next round. Well,
you just have a bad game or two, and then
exactly. And we were very close to beating a team that before us kept a clean sheet in like 3 of the group games. But it was a good result in the end. Even the last 16, I don't think it was too bad. And Antek, our goalkeeper, and also the vice president, or newly elected president of the Polish Society, he was very pleased because despite us winning quite a lot of games in the league and in the second term, it was his first clean sheet against China ever for the Society. So he was extremely pleased about that. And we got knocked out. And then there was a rule in the World Cup that you're allowed to be drafted by... So a team which has gone through to the knockouts is allowed to draft one player from the team, for any of the teams that have been knocked out. as long as that player's okay. And I got drafted by Turkey after the last 16 because I hadn't drafted anyone before that. And we played the USA in the quarterfinal. Unfortunately, we lost, but I had the Mbappe type hat trick, so we lost 5-3, and all 3 goals were scored by me. So it was actually by far my best performance. I'd warmed up by that point, and it was, the memes they put. They used to create those reels on TikTok, a joke of like when you create a story for your mates and be like, lost 5-3, scored all 3. Where you want to show that the team's not done well and you have. Obviously, I don't mean it in that way, but yeah, it was that type of hat trick, a good performance. But yeah, that's when it ended for me. It was Somalia that ended up winning the World Cup with mostly people from the Middle Eastern societies. I think they were a wonderful team. They did really well, and that's where the day ended for me. And then obviously the half marathon the next day, so it lightened the weekend even more. So generally at the end of it all, I was very pleased with how the weekend's gone. It felt really productive, even despite a minor knee injury, which I picked up at the end of the half marathon, probably because I was already fatigued from the day before and just the constant impact. But I've rested since then. Today's Wednesday as of recording, and I'm feeling much better. So it was good to do that. And that sort of weekend sort of somewhat symbolically brought the end of sport for me at Exeter. I might have 1 or 2 more intramural games if I recover by the end of the week before the term ends, but that was sort of that big symbolic ending. I'm not sure if I've even come to terms with it, but no, it's coming to an end, as is just my whole time here, to be honest. And
How do you feel about that, your time coming to an end at Exeter?
I don't know if I've been able to process it. Maybe because I've still got a dissertation due. Well, it'll be funny because I'll submit, which happens with master students. I'll be submitting my dissertation probably after I've already left here, probably doing a quick trip home because my dissertation is due on August 29th. And, well, I don't know exactly when I'll be leaving yet, but it will be quite likely within the next month or 2. I definitely won't be here in August, might not even be here in July. And I haven't fully processed it, but I'm knowing me, I quite likely will be very emotional by the time it will be time to leave. I'll be back, of course, as well in December for my graduation, but that'll be different. But I do have hope, firstly, because I'm really excited what I've got lined up next, but also with the fact that I will be diving basically right next to the other thing, and I won't really have time to sit about and reminisce or muse too much on having departed. That's an interesting topic, actually. I want to hear what you think, because I'm that type of guy, and not everyone agrees with me. My girlfriend certainly doesn't. Is that I'm the type of guy who sort of tend to run away from his feelings, not ignore them, but if I'm feeling upset, I just try and do more, just keep myself busy, make sure something's lined up, and just get the healthy dopamine from activities. That's sort of my way of doing it, even because I lost my grandma last month, and ever since then I realised that if I sit there, I'm just going to get more and more upset. So I just stuffed my schedule with all these things, including the marathon, half marathon, all the football, all the essays, everything, and that helps me and going out of it, instead of, because you're still going to feel upset about it, or obviously when I leave Exeter, there's always going to be a bit of me upset about it. So why sit and muse on it, where I can just keep myself busy and keep investing into myself? That's sort of my mentality to it. But there's always the people who would advocate for reflection, more so to a greater extent. No, I'm not against reflection by any means. I'm someone who journals and someone who loves doing all of that. It's more that I sort of do it as I go. I'm not someone who likes to take a break and reflect on something too much, because I'd rather just go do the next thing. And I tend to ignore the feelings a bit, just get things done. I mean, I'm really curious to see what you think, because there's mixed opinions out there, and I'm not 100% settled with a certain school of thought, but I'm leaning towards one than the other.
I think I'm quite mixed with that, really. I think definitely sit and think on it and appreciate it and understand it, and definitely meditate on it. And when I mean meditate, I don't mean like sit there and close your eyes, but like think about it a little bit. But yeah, I also think don't just sit on it for too long, because you're going to feel sad regardless about moving on from Exeter. I think you'd have to accept that you're moving on, appreciate it that you've moved on and you've had a good time here, but don't try to suppress it or run away from it, because it doesn't really help. I mean, it's a bit different, because when you're coming to an end of something like Exeter, you sort of have to sit on it once in a while. When it's comes to like grieving and stuff, I don't know, because I've not really gone through that. Like the only times I've ever had to grieve for like a lost one was my great grandparents, but like I was younger and they're like in their 90s, so it's, you know, you sort of know their time's coming really. So
My grandma was as well, like very late 90s. So
it's hard, but it's not like, I mean, I can't say because I've not lost anyone that's younger and that I've, you know, developed a better relationship with since in that time. But I think, yeah, sit on it and, you know, just accept that it's happening, reflect and say, hey, I've had a good time. You know, it's a bit sad that it's coming to an end, but I look forward to the next thing. You know, it's like I had the same sort of thing when I was graduating. It was sort of, I was quite upset, to be honest with you. I actually don't mind admitting that I cried a couple of times, like saying goodbye to friends and stuff, because I've had such a good time with them and developed such a good relationship with all of them. You know, and it was really sad for me because I'm such a big people person. You know, it's funny because I'm like a big introvert, but I also love spending time with people and just, you know, having such a good laugh and creating memories and moments and whatever you want to say. But yeah, it was quite hard for me towards the end of Exeter last year. I think, what was it?
July.
Yeah, June, July time. I remember that last week of graduation, me and my housemates were going out. No, I think it was in June even, where we kept going out as a house, like as a flat, but we kept saying, oh, we'll do one more night, and then we did like 3 or 4 nights, like in the space of a week, which was crazy for me because I don't do clubbing at all. But it was like, I think we're just sort of hanging on to that feeling of, oh, this is our last time together, and it was yeah, really hard. I remember even saying goodbye to do you remember Big Tom? You don't forget a guy that big, do you? But I remember saying goodbye to him because I actually had a shift at like a little job I was doing for the uni. And
I remember, yeah.
I remember as I went to say goodbye to him, I just started like tears just started coming down my face, sort of thing. And I was like, get your ass over and just give me a hug and let's get on with it. But yeah, I don't you know, feel, what is it? Feel sad? No, I do feel not sad. I don't.
Was it easier with the fact that you were not certain back then, but you were thinking of staying here for work? Did that somewhat ease it, that you weren't leaving the place?
No, it definitely didn't make it easier.
Or was it different entirely going as a job than as a student?
Different because of all the people that you knew as a student are not here, so it's harder. I mean, obviously you're here. Who else is here? JT's here.
A few people, yeah.
Yeah, a few people, but not like, you know, all of us. You know, like we had it 2 years ago or last year. Yeah, a lot of people, even people that left the year before we graduated, our undergrad that is, I missed them quite a lot as well. And I got to see them for our reunion, and yeah, I get to see people occasionally. But yeah, living in Exeter as a person that's working, not a student, is definitely different. But going back to what you asked earlier, or what you were asking for my thoughts was, is like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being upset about it, and suppressing it doesn't make it better, but sitting on it all the time doesn't either. You know, so it's like, I think it is a balance. It's a balance trick. That's like of everything. You know, it's quite hard to get, isn't it? Balancing it.
No, for me, the two things for me that really ease, well, we'll see if they've worked or not, but I feel will ease the transition is there's two things. One is I sort of not made a list, but in my head I considered what made uni, what the things that I enjoyed. I maybe I've oversimplified things a bit. There's always the emotional aspect of just being at uni and the things you mentioned, but I looked at what do I enjoy doing at uni, and then I realised about 70 or 80% of what I've done at uni I can keep doing beyond uni. It's just studies would swap to work, but everything else I can sort of keep. I mean, I did obviously all the media stuff. Hopefully that will become my job. And then I can still read books even if I'm not doing an English degree. And then the rest, the friends, the sport, like all the things I've been doing, I can maintain that going forward, even if it's to a lesser extent. Obviously other commitments will kick in as the adult life rolls ahead. But the fact that I see myself maintaining most of the things that have made uni great for me helps me. And number two is the fact that I fulfilled basically everything I planned to do within, well, for me it was 4 years, for some people it's 3. Everything I wanted to do. There's not a single thing which I'm like, oh, I wish. There's a lot of people in third year which go out and like, I wish I would have done this more, I wish I would have done that more. I don't have that anymore. Maybe that I was helped by the fact that that I did another year here, because being in charge of a club at the AU was always something I wanted to get done, and that obviously got completed only this year. But at this point in time, I look back and I've done everything I could have possibly wanted to do at uni. there's not a single club or society, not a single.
Not like travelled more or anything. Not travelled more.
But again, I can do that beyond uni. You know.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
I can if I obviously it's hard. You're tired at the end of the working week, but if you really want to, you can go and travel somewhere Saturday, Sunday, and come back for the Monday. So especially from London, it's
well, you've got
accessible.
like 4 or 5 airports there.
Yeah,
So
and 4 or 5. There's like 4 ways to go in the UK. You know. And given how expensive London is, it's probably more cheaper to get out of it than stay in it.
Yeah, well, I was actually thinking about like moving to London one day, but I realised, obviously maybe my salary would be different, but like the salary I earn now compared to if it was a little bit higher in London, I probably would be, poorer in a way because of how expensive it is to live there.
It depends of your lifestyle again. It depends because people associate London a lot with going out, doing the nice
drinking,
things.
smoking them. Yeah.
People always look at the pint's more expensive in London. Yeah, but the gym membership isn't. The chicken at Lidl isn't. So it depends. I checked. It depends. It depends what you do really. It is the trick. The commute is the most expensive part for me. I think going around on the underground. That's always gonna have a tool. But yeah, what I was saying is I've ticked off everything that I wanted to do at uni. There's nothing that I don't think I've done enough of. I've definitely done plenty of socialising. Couldn't have done more. At some point it became even maybe a bit excessive, even for an extrovert like me. Did really hard, especially in my final year with the studies, currently on for a distinction. Did all the sports, did all the committee roles, launched my media career. There's maybe my own show, maybe a box show that I never launched on Expression. But again, like
there's always a what if or I wish I did this.
But
like,
generally,
I think
generally speaking, I've ticked off everything that I wanted to, and that makes the transition easy for me because there's no regrets. So I'm looking forward to the next chapter, and it does feel like a right time to go now because this time last year, a lot of, third years were leaving, some go straight into the workplace like yourself. For me, it was always like I've got one more year in me. It's like a football player, signing in 1 year contract extension.
Salary extension.
Yeah. But now is the time. I feel it. It's coming to me more naturally, and the third bit is like the friends, like who you meet at uni. As long as you've invested positively into the relationship, like the one we've got, it's gonna last, and you take it way beyond uni, and you can really much replicate the activities you do, sort of going forward. So I think those things ease the transition for me and make it much more promising going forward. And I'm more excited than nervous for the future. I mean, I'm always, in that sense, I'm very positive thinking. I always look forward to what's coming. I never really worry. I am, again, very simplistic, but I am of the opinion of if you work for something, you get it. You know how they say, what's his name? Dana White, one of the
UFC.
Yeah.
UFC host.
He always says the hardest thing in life is to figure out what you want to do. Once you know what you want to do, you wake up and you work towards it, and you're guaranteed to get it. It's simple. Some people don't agree. People like talking about how the world's unfair. I look at it more straightforward. If that's generally what you want, sometimes hard work doesn't get you. You also have to be smart.
You have to also be. I definitely do think that
you need your element of luck and support, but then
people are definitely born into different situations. It makes it easier. I think some people have to work harder than others. I definitely think that's the case. I don't think we'd all have to work equally as hard to get what we want. Some definitely have to work harder than others. I mean, it's the story of David Goggins, isn't it? It's his life story. It's plenty of people that come from really poor backgrounds have to work even harder to get to where they want to go. So.
Yeah, Goggins has been your big one.
Yeah, Goggins and another.
You've probably spoken about him on this podcast before.
I think I probably did with JT in the very first ever episode I did of a podcast. But another guy that I'd like listened to recently, finished a book of was Charlie Engel's Running Man, and that was basically like a guy who overcame like a 10-year addiction to like alcohol, cocaine, and became like an ultra marathon runner. I mean, he was one of the first people to run the entire Sahara Desert. And he produced a documentary that was like narrated by Matt Damon, which is insane. Like reading his story and all the stuff that he's got up to, he's quite inspiring. Coming from someone that's like really bad roots. No, not bad roots, but like deep struggles of like addiction and stuff. But yeah, going back to what I said earlier about people that come from different backgrounds do have it harder than others. I definitely don't think it's it's not always going to be equal on the playing field. You know, like I think that's just a matter of fact. And yeah, some people definitely do have to work harder than others.
But do you not think? And again, I'm very privileged in that sense, but I also sort of want to defend the people who come maybe from more privileged positions. There's also the pressure though to perform. If your dad or your mum is extremely successful, there's always that pressure though from reaching your dad's excellence, because that's something I struggled with a lot. And again, I bring her up a lot, but she's very important to me. My girlfriend always gets annoyed that like I compare myself to my dad a lot, and I always look at him up as something almost unattainable. My dad's level of success, and she gets annoyed when I do that because she's like, "Come on, you're not as bad, you know. You stop comparing yourself to your dad." But for me, it was always that pressure from my dad, because my dad's extremely knowledgeable, quite rich, I would admit, and very smart, very hardworking. And there was always that pressure to perform well. For some people who come maybe from less privileged backgrounds, you don't get the support maybe, but you also don't get the pressure. Because whatever you do, it'll be better than what anyone in your family has already done, ever.
But
And then again,
there is a big but in that you don't always get that chance, or you don't always make it as much as you want to come from the underprivileged position. I mean, coming from that background, I think I'd rather... I don't know, it's hard for me because I'm not gone for what you've gone for and you've not gone for what I've gone for. You know, it's easy for me to sit and say I'd rather have your position when
but then again,
I don't know what it's like.
But then again, I don't want to like under appreciate what I've got. It is harder from the other side than from mine. But I'm sort of just giving the other perspective, I think, which can enter the equation.
It's a good...
I do appreciate it a lot, though. Don't get me wrong. Like, I do think it's still easier when you get that support. I mean, for me, it was different stuff. It was just being in a new country as a Russian during a time of war. You don't know how people would react in a completely different culture, which you've not grown up in. Never been to the UK, actually, before I came here to live. So it's always that aspect. And doing things that Russians probably would never do abroad, you know. But generally, no, I speak very positively on my dad. I mean, I always say that anything I'm ever going to achieve, I'm probably going to attribute to him. Because I would have not had any of those opportunities in the first place without my dad supporting me, and my mum, of course. But I sort of look up more to my dad just because that male figure in my household, and someone who built a career. My mum dedicated more to a family, so you know I look at my dad more. But yeah, in that sense, my dad always tells me that I'm much more smart and successful and wherever at my age than he was at that age. But I don't know. I think a lot about my dad in a way that like he's very knowledgeable, and that's something I admire a lot and something I take from him.
How often do you get to see him?
Not as often as I would have wished, but our relationship is more like we don't talk that much over phone. We can go for 2-3 weeks without calling. But when we see each other, for example, in February we met in Turkey, and we spent 5 days together every second. Literally just 5 days. It was great, by the way. £32 flight from Stansted, Turkey in winter, cheap. Journey there and back, like £60. It wasn't that bad. Me and my dad met in Turkey in February for 5 days. 5 days just walking down the seaside, playing, like doing archery, a few other things. You know, just going for dinners. Literally just me and my dad and son time, 5 days. Switched off my phone, like didn't do anything. I was only responding literally to my mum and my girlfriend those days, no one else. And it was wonderful, just dad and son time. That's my relationship with him. We make the most of while we're there in person, and then over call it's less, because we know we're always there. Like we're just able to relight that spark, reignite it every time we meet, as if the time apart was just...
It never happened. Yeah.
No.
Do you know what? I'm in the exact same position as you, and I like that. It's not that I don't like calling my family, but it's like...
No, I love calling my dad, but he works very hard. He works 9 to 9 these days, including the commute, so he's just always very tired.
There's only so much you can say as well, isn't there? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think I'd rather catch up in person or very occasional phone call just to see how everyone's doing, as opposed to trying to call or text every day. You know, I don't think I could ever do that. It's not really our thing as a family. But it's nice that you guys get on really well.
It's about the engagement. That's something he always underlined, and I think that's something that might resonate with you. And it's not about son and dad relationship. It's about just any human interactions, including friendships, relationship with partners, relationship with family, relationship with work even, networking connections. It's how much you engage, how much you emotionally invest into the conversation, which then underlines it later in your memory. in a way that sometimes the conversation was so emotionally fulfilling, and and there has to be both people in the conversation were so engaged that looking back at it, even if it was your only meeting in about 3 months, you look back at it and you feel like, the friendship's there. And if those conversations are so well connected, then you can go for months without talking and you'll still feel like the friendship is there and you wouldn't worry about it. Which is what, and the problem I think these days is things have become way too more surface level. So much things is surface level, so much things is just abstract, anything. There's not much connection. That's why people need to have this regular, everyday thing. I think if the quality over quantity in friendships, even me and you, I think we've got that. We're able to have a quality discussion. That's why even if we then don't see each other for 4 or 5 weeks, we then go back together and we're able to straight away get back into it.
Which is nice because I definitely think we've become much more closer over the last year, over your master's year. I think we got along during our last year, but I think we've definitely got closer this year, which is nice. And I feel like we've seen each other less this year, which is going back to that quality over quantity thing you were saying. I think a big thing as well about the surface level interactions is, it's a cliche to say, but it's social media and just phones and stuff. And it's like, it is such a shame that people don't take interactions as serious, or don't try to put more effort into it as much as they could do. Have you found that much at uni?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting. Like, everything is, like, social media is so different. Like, I mean, I use it, so I shouldn't really criticize it. But I like to post, maybe if I've done something fun, like an Oxford trip. I like to put up a few photos, with my friends. Sure, like if I went to a Christmas ball or something, or played a game of football, I do like myself out there. But it does create you. It's so, if you get to know the people behind all of this, it's just
bullshit.
Yeah, basically.
So much bullshit. It's one of the reasons why I don't really use it. I mean, I had a LinkedIn account, but I've suspended that because I couldn't stand going through that shit. Facebook I don't use other than for messaging people, because you got the Facebook Messenger, which is linked to your Facebook account, so I only use that. And I have an Instagram account, but I'm so strict on it that I can only go on it when I'm posting something, so I can't ever go on it at all unless I'm posting on something, and I can't follow anyone, just because it has such a great potential, social media, to market who you are. I mean, you mentioned earlier your media career is kicking off, and that's solely
brand. It's all about that. Yeah.
It's solely reliant on social media being able to market who you are and what you've done. But yeah, man, it's like a, what they call it, a double-edged sword, but the sword that's going into you is bigger than the sword that's coming out of you, if you know what I mean, because like the positive effect compared to the negative effect from me is so much more bigger.
All right, well, how about this? I know it's a show about me, but I've been meaning to ask you this actually for a while and give a one, because you're someone who separate yourself from social media. You're basically someone who was able to keep yourself away from a lot of modern distractions rather successfully, while still keeping yourself in the social circle with everyone else. Someone who manages to go to sleep early without having the common cliche of FOMO, fear of missing out. You do all of that, but you stay with the people who do it, like myself. I mean, I go to sleep way later. I use social media, I like a beer here and there, and there's many others. How do you do it? Like, what made you, because you obviously mentioned Goggins, but that's more about training routines. Because I'm fairly consistent with a lot of things. I'm consistent with my training. I'm consistent with a lot of things, but I'm not like you in a sense that, like, I still fall for quite a lot of, not a lot, but some of the modern day distractions. Like, I do find myself doing a few Instagram reels, on the loo in the middle of the morning or something like that, or like just in bed in the evening. How do you do it? How do you separate yourself? Because I find it, I admire it a lot. It's something I don't see myself being capable to do, at least for now, fully.
So it all started really in COVID. If it wasn't for COVID, I don't think I'd be the person I am today. And that's not to say I'm super successful or anything, but definitely COVID I was able to develop that routine. I mean, when everyone was in lockdown,
that's interesting, because COVID is when people went online more and like went into the media landscape more, and starting it. That's interesting. Carry on.
Yeah, so I had to actually take a year out because I needed to pay for my uni tuition for my first year. So my year, when everyone was in lockdown, was working at Tesco's for an entire year. So I said, do you know what? I've got the chance now to delete social media and see how I get on with it, and then kick bad habits like video games, and not to say that video games are always bad habits, but it's like overconsumption of it is a bad habit, in my opinion. And then I was able to develop routines and stuff, and really I started because I've been able to maintain it because I started it before I came to uni. Like if COVID never happened, but I still had that chance to go to uni that I did, I would probably be not the person I am right now. So it takes a long time to get into it, and once it becomes like who you are, you can't really go back. Like, it's actually quite a scary quote, and generally in the book, David Goggins' book is like, once you live this way, there's sort of no way turning back, because in a way, when you do become a bit different and you try to like become a bit more like who you were, like lazier in the way, there's a voice in the head that tells you could be doing better, and sometimes it can be really fucking harsh. Like you mentioned earlier about you being harsh on yourself. I've definitely felt that in the last couple of years, or like times when I've been bad, and that sounds a bit weird, but when I've like not lived up to the standards that I expect of myself, like I can be really harsh on myself. So yeah,
What gets you? Because like I can go to a pub with my mates, but if I'm preparing for a race, for example, I can keep myself disciplined and not buy a beer and just sit there and drink water. That I don't have a problem with if I know it has to be done. But if my friends are staying till 10, I could never lift myself off at 8 and take myself home. Like, I have discipline, but to an extent, and I don't know how you do it generally. How you have that mental strength to, especially if you're having a good time, to just lift yourself and go home.
You realise that I'm like 3 or 4 years older than you, right? So,
yeah, I know.
I mean, you think like that.
But most people don't.
That does make a massive difference, that age depth, because I've had those years to develop that thought process. And even during my time at uni, I would stay up late and I'd get to bed early. I wouldn't always go to bed early. Like, I was times where I was going out to bed late, and I knew it was worth it for me, because you only get 3 years at uni, or 4 years if you do a master's or whatever you do. But I always knew that if I was staying out later with friends and stuff, it's always worth that sacrifice of not being able to maybe wake up as early the next day, because you don't always get that chance, And yeah, there's definitely times when I've just gone home early when nothing was happening, or everyone's been enjoying it. I'm like, okay, it's time for me to go to bed. But that's like, you got to sort of sometimes weigh it up. Like, some days I can do that and sometimes I don't. I think it's because you see the days when I do it that you don't think I'll never do it. When there are days when I'm go to bed late, or
No, I do remember this time last year you would stay with us in MP even longer. Like,
because I knew it was time to spend time. I knew it was right to spend time with you guys before we all moved on. And I knew for a fact that I would regret it if I didn't spend time with you guys. I mean, even next week we've got next is it Thursday, isn't it? Is the summer ball.
You going to that?
So I'm actually doing some video games with some colleagues at work, but I'm gonna come after for like a half an hour or something to say goodbye and hi to some people, because I've said goodbye to most people that I've known from my time at uni from like the last 2 years, whereas you and JT and maybe 1 or 2 people from the XTV committee that I know I'll be saying goodbye to. So yeah, I'll probably come say hi and just wish some people some good luck and wishing them all the best for the future. But yeah, Mr. Langley, bless him, told me that it's coming happening next week, so I can come along.
Yeah, I'm. That'll be my last ball.
Yeah,
I'm going to it. Yeah, it'll be my last one. We'll see how that goes.
I might dress up then so we get a good photo together or something.
Get a suit going. I've got a lovely photo from last year from the botanist of me and you. It's on my phone.
Yes, I've got that on my phone as well, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one of me and you just at the roof of the botanist. Got your beard and in this.
That was quite nice. That was.
No, it was great. Honestly, it was a good time. It feels ages ago.
Well, the thing is, it was over a year ago. It's scary, isn't it? Are you going to UGB this year?
No, not going. To be honest, mate, it's overrated, in my opinion. I can't say I enjoyed it that much last year. I mean, I put it this way: if my girlfriend was here, I would have gone. With her, it would have been fun. Go together, go to those discos in the garden. Go to the rides together. I don't really have anyone to go with this year. Like, last year I went with Matthias and James Allen, so it was quite fun, the 3 of us. So it was a good vibe going there. But again, last year, came into EGB, had a few drinks, purposefully chose the longest queues so I could watch the Champions League final uninterrupted. It was free on Discovery.
Liverpool Real Madrid, wasn't it?
No, Dortmund Real Madrid.
Oh, I'm thinking about the year before, because I remember when you said it, you put messages in. That was that one time. I think it might have been your first.
Liverpool Real Madrid, we haven't even met back then. Otherwise, I would have made so much fun of you.
That was 2022, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the end of my first year. No, that day I finished my last in-person exam that day, and I went straight to Ram at 4 o'clock and stayed there till the end of the.
I was there as well. That's crazy.
We didn't meet that day. We didn't
know each other.
No.
Holy shit! Because I was in there.
If you ever saw some madman fresher screaming and punching bags, not bags, but like the couch.
That was you.
That was me.
Damn.
I was watching it with. Remember Sam Parks?
Yeah.
He was then head of sport with me in my second year. Was staff secretary last year on Expression.
Because I was there by the tables, like the 4 or 5 tables by the water fountain.
Oh, yeah.
I was there with Big Tom's housemate from first year. Because it was our first year. We went as well. Damn.
I was there like literally when you walk in to your left.
Yeah.
The couches to your left.
That's crazy. We were in the same room. We didn't even realise until now.
No, we didn't even know each other.
What a small
But no,
world.
last year I queued up literally for the longest ride so I could watch the Champions League uninterrupted. Because, I wasn't missing it. Real Madrid going for their 15th title. Don't care how much I've paid for the EGB thing. Ain't missing that. I've never missed a single Champions League final since I started watching football.
15 Champions Leagues. That's insane.
Yeah, I'm never going to miss a final. Everything goes on. I've not missed this final.
Like, if your kid's being born, you're going to...
Oh, hell no, he's not getting born then. He
Wait
can do it before 8 p.m. Right.
Or you can watch. You can wait. You can be born at half time and then watch the second half.
Yeah, I know, right? Get it quick.
Yeah.
I was born at 9:30 in the morning, so hopefully same.
Same thing.
But yeah, EGB was it was good, but again, I don't know.
What do you think to the people there? What they like? Like not Mateus and Jalen. What everyone else? What was everyone doing? They just
No, it's a normal club night basically, just in the garden, plus the rides, plus the photos. It's just, I can't lie, that's my personal experience. It was too many crowds of people in one small place. I found it hard to handle it sober, so I had to get drunk just to feel comfortable. Because I could see Matthias, personally, he wasn't having the greatest of time because it wasn't an environment he was too comfortable in. But I had to get drunk to feel good there. And the same in clubs. That's why I stopped going out to clubs these days, because I have to drink to go there, because I don't feel comfortable in them if I'm not in the same condition as everyone around me. So it was a good experience. I don't regret going by any means. I rarely ever regret things, to be honest. It was a good experience as a one-off, but it's not something I'm willing to pay £65 again, plus the ride, plus everything else, another 80 quid again. As a one-off experience again, to get it ticked off, see how it goes, yeah, but I'm not doing it this year. Because this term, like today, I've been more focusing on just spending time with friends who I've already known and sort of adding that extra few, fun moments together, into like that. I prefer it that way, and I think that's the better way of doing it. Nothing against EGB, but if I had a big group of people to go with this year, I would have probably have. But the people I've spent my time with this year, none of them are going. So nor am I. So Xmedia will be Xmedia will be my last one in
just over a week's time.
Yeah, 5th of June, I think. I've never been to, what's the venue? The Bills, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been.
Yeah, it's a nice place to go and eat some food. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've had a date there before, like when I was at uni and stuff. It was quite a nice little place. I'm trying to picture how it would be for for an end of year summer ball sort of thing. But maybe they got like a buffet option or something. Or we'll see. I'm sure Tom's done a great job as always, knowing him. Yeah, that's crazy that most of you guys would be saying your final time. But I think I've always found, and I'm always happy that I never went to EGB, because my summer balls or end of year dinners were always with the Xmedia stuff. Like I've always done it with my friends, as opposed to going with like one or two people that I love, that are my friends, but you're just surrounded in a field of people you don't even know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was always a bit of a beanock in a way that I know a lot of people, just not too well, but like I just know a lot of people, so I would always bump into people I know. I mean, I tell you this way, maybe it's too dark. Me and Matthias, actually, we came to EGB last year, and we started competing of who knows more people. It was like a fun game we played. So if someone comes up and says hi, and we start tallying up, I think I won by the end of the night. But that's not the important bit.
I feel like Mateus probably won that, surely.
No, you underestimate how much people I know.
Mateus pretty much knows everyone in Exeter, doesn't he not?
No, but I'm quite similar in that sense. But it wasn't the important bit. It was the fact that, like, that was the turning point for me last year's EGB, when I flipped a switch and started focusing on spending more meaningful time with my close friends, rather than trying to search for more acquaintances.
Because you feel quite lonely, don't you, doing that?
Exactly.
And
'Cause
empty.
me and Matthias at the end of the night realized that, I realized that I didn't raise it orally to him, but something I thought of. We were both competing with how many people both of us know, but we had no one else apart from each other to go to that EGB together.
It's quite
Even though
depressing.
I know it's a dark thought, but I woke up the next morning and I thought about it. That was one of the first things I sort of thought of when I came back from EGB, and that really flipped to switching me, because this year I've really focused on the fact, which is one of the reasons why our friendship has developed this year, because I focused more and put the effort into. It's even on my. It was called a now list that I wrote before the beginning of the academic year. What am I focusing this year? What are my priorities? And one of the things on it was maintaining existing friendships, and it's even capitalized. So I don't think I've made a single new friend this year, like an actual friend. It was maybe obviously people I coach, so, people I've met, but I really focused on just maintaining and solidifying the relationships that I had already established, and I realized it would be much more beneficial and much more meaningful for me to really just put the effort, which we was talking about earlier, the engagement into the friendships that I've already got. And I think that, which is why, and it was a right decision to do, because this year by far it's been a much better. People always say their first, second, fourth year has been by far my best year at Exeter. Third year was better than second year. Second was better than first. So it's gone like that for me. Every year has been much better, just because I've learned how to. Well, the right thing's not the way, but the thing that works for me. I don't like generally the distinction of right wrong. It's right for someone or wrong for someone. But yeah, it was that moment at EGB when I realized that, okay, well, what's the point of all these acquaintances? The 52, hello, how you doing? Sort of handshake, dab, and then goodbye, see you later. I just realized how meaningless it was. I still know a lot of people, but I don't engage as much into those, and instead really just work on what you've got. Because realistically, yeah, you're going to have your job, you're going to have your family, you're going to get your contacts in the industry that you're in, but then your friends you're only going to have when you're older, 10 people maximum, realistically.
Your social groups shrinks so much.
It shrinks. We don't think of it now, but it does.
I think it's the thing why people
that changed
struggle.
my mind, yeah.
I think it's the thing why people struggle so much with loneliness as well. Is like when they finish uni, you've made all these acquaintances, or what I would actually call just drinking buddies. Like Chris Williamson, someone that we both like from Modern Wisdom, he mentions it quite a bit actually. We do love him quite both. I don't blame us because he's a very handsome man. Anyway, off topic. But in all seriousness, he's
unmarried. Sorry, go on.
He mentioned something like about drinking buddies. Like if you're only hang out with someone because they drink with you.
If you can only bear around your friends just to drink, you need better friends.
Exactly. It's like those lines. It's like you can meet all these people and go clubbing and drink with all these people and whatever, but they're not actually as close and meaningful as the few people that you see on occasion, but you have a really good time together with, and that's actually getting older and realizing how important that is. Really, it's actually really nice. It's what I was saying was like it being quite depressing when you finish uni is actually you lose a lot of people that you knew, but you come to realize how important some of the contacts you still have are and how much they mean to you. I mean, I was mentioning to you earlier about the guy I'm seeing in Liverpool. Like I've been friends with him all my life, quite literally I mean, obviously, you're not, when you're like one or two, you don't have the capacity to talk and communicate. But like, as well as I've been able to my entire life, we've been really good friends, and we see each other once a year. But like, I know when we see each other for like that weekend, we're gonna be talking so much random shit and just having such a good time and just loving each other's company. And that is really nice, and that would mean more to me than some of the interactions I've had during my time at university with people that I've just worked with, something.
No, for sure. That's. See, and this year's been much better. Like I've really just pushed for the relationships that I've had, and it's just made me much more happier. Honestly, I think the relationship had an impact on me as well, in a sense that I stopped chasing random acquaintances, because like I didn't need just loads of contacts to feel validated, because I had something more meaningful. But even friendship wise as well, it was I did the right thing this year, and EGB was really the day that it just flipped my mind. I think that's something Matthias came to as well, actually, because I've been staying at his house a number of times this year when I go to London, and he was also telling me, it was like, so many people who were texting me while I was next, like half of them are not even there anymore. I don't even speak to them, and he sort of came to that similar understanding as well. So it comes in the end, but I think I was glad that I made that transition before I left uni, and made the focus more sort of towards what already happened and focused on solidifying that, rather than leaving uni and realizing what was that all about.
Mm.
And I think that's something that works for me, because it's a weird one. I there was always me in school, which was a swimmer and studies. That's all there was to my life, because I swam every day. And then I had friends, but then I came to uni, and then you get opened up to all these things, and I had just finished my sort of swimming career. COVID sort of ruined it. And my first year, you sort of lose yourself a bit in all of it, and you start trying out new things, going out, maybe drinking, meeting people, trying new societies, maybe trying activities that you haven't started yet. But then now I look at it, by fourth year, I sort of went back into who I really am. So you've tried all these things first and second year, but then you've sort of I've ended up circling back to exactly the same things. I realised that nothing makes me more happier than working out, doing races, playing games, and then like media, podcasts, At the end of the day, it shrinks. That's why they say try as much as you can, because at least for me, in the end of the day, you end up circling back
to what you really like.
to what you are.
I'll tell you what, something actually that's made me more realising of what I want in my life was when I went to Oslo this weekend, actually, realising how much I want of a simple life. Like, I don't want to be famous at all or mega rich and mega wealthy. All I want is just to have enough money to have a family, and that's it. I think you mentioned something, and that stuck with me when we finished the marathon. We got our ice cream together. Do you remember what I mentioned to you, that there was a guy, when I was waiting for you, who he went up to kiss his baby, and then kiss his wife, and then cross the line. And something you said to me, what more could a man want?
No, I said,
and
it doesn't get better than this.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, that is so true. Like, what could we really want more is like to push ourselves a little bit more, do some marathons and whatever, and have that support. And
maybe 2 weeks later he'll get a 10-minute faster marathon or something.
Yeah, whatever. And then, just have the money to provide for a family, and then that's it, isn't it? You don't need to be like stupidly wealthy or stupidly rich and well known, And I feel like you're chasing like an empty pit.
For me, what I find important, it's not about fame. For me, I think work has to be recognised. That's my sort of thinking. For example, my grandma, it's going to be a dark example. Not dark, but a sad example. The funeral a few weeks ago, it was a one-day notice. There were 236 people at the funeral. So it was a massive attendance. She was an English teacher. She worked for 65 years, retired at 89, died at 95. In Russia, we work basically up until death because pensions are low and people don't really know what to do with their lives after they retire. I mean, even if my dad's 64 this year, he's going to probably work for another 20 years because he hasn't really got anything he enjoys more than work. And that's not the important. The important is that, well, it is important, but it's not the focal point of this discussion. At the funeral, everyone spoke about the impact she made as a teacher, and that made me smile. It was a sad day, but I was smiling because I saw how much
she'd help people, and
how much her work and her achievements had been recognised. Because I see so often these days, especially when there's social media, where people steal other people's achievements, where people take other people's ideas, they utilise them themselves, they claim them as their own, where there's plagiarism, there's everything. So much of people's work gets unnoticed, and that makes me sad. I think if someone's put in the work, I think it has to be recognised. That's what I love at the uni when they do like inner society awards, when they do small things like that there can never be too many awards. People think there's a Mickey Mouse award. I think it's good. Every bit of small work has to be recognised. So for me, it's like I realised a lot with time, it's not about fame. But I think if a football player's gone and scored 100 goals for England, he has to be recognised for it. And not because he's chasing fame, but because he's done something outstanding on a small scale. I think everyone's hard work in some way or another has to be recognised. And if it's hard work, then it has to be paid attention to. I do have a tendency to search for validation. It's probably something...
We work an ego, don't we?
And of all the sort of thing that I need to work on is for me to have a bit more self-validation. That I do consider it wasn't my weakness. I do search for external validation quite often. I do accept that. But I do think that people have to be recognised for what they do.
Does your external validation seeking come from your use of social media, like needing to post and stuff on Instagram and stuff?
Potentially, but then at the same time, I only got Instagram when I got to uni. Never had it as a kid. I downloaded it first day of my first year. I got it at uni. But that tendency was always there, even at 14, at 12. I like to be recognised. I wanted to stand out. I do like attention, and a lot of people do. But only for the right things. I would never do something outrageously bad. But, like, if I've scored 2 goals in a game, I sort of want people to notice and come up to me and be like, well done, mate. Nice goals there. I do accept that, and a lot of people do. And not everyone is like that. That's why a lot of the time someone does the hard work and it doesn't get recognised. But that's something I really like about this uni and the societies I've been part of. I mean, X-Media is an example. I think everyone's hard work in X-Media throughout my time has always been recognised. And I found it unbelievably wonderful because it's important. So it's not about fame for me, but it's about having your work recognised. So everyone chooses how much. Obviously, it's a voluntary choice. Someone likes to work behind the scenes and they don't really need that much attention. But from my perspective, the amount of recognition you receive should be directly proportional to the amount of work you've put in and the amount of impact you've made. That's my sort of view of it. Yep.
I definitely do. I definitely agree with you. But like you said, there will always be times where people don't get recognised for the hard work they put in. So I guess it's sort of about really understanding what your motivation is and what you're doing. Like, are you doing it to impress others, or are you doing it because it's what you want to do? If that makes sense, or like you want to push yourself, and then say you don't get the recognition that you want, are you going to get downbeaten by it? You know, I think it's trying to recognise that at times that when you put in a good shift, you're not always going to get recognised. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you've had that being a football player and football coach. Like, you've had performances that have been like, you would say like, world class, but no one's recognised it and no one said anything. And you might feel a bit disappointed. But the times when you do have like per se like a subpar performance, you scored 1 goal and everyone like pats you on the back, but you feel like you haven't done good enough. Do you know what I mean? It's quite interesting how like our motivation works within our like psychology and stuff. And actually, you notice it when you get older. Like, your motivations change quite a bit in terms of how you take feedback from others and how you take what you want to do. Yeah, it's quite fun. It's actually a fun thing about growing up. Actually, I love getting older because you become more wiser. You know, when you're younger, you never want to get older, or no, when you're super young, you want to get older. But when you get a bit older, like your early 20s, you never want to get older. But like, I tell you what, man, when you start getting older, it's actually pretty cool. Like how wise you become and how much you get to experience of life, and you know how much more you get to share moments with your friends and your family and your loved ones, and get to do like work that's actually quite meaningful. And
you're experienced enough to understand things and still young enough to do things.
Oh yeah, I feel like you'd be. There's so many examples of people that are in their 40s and 50s that started changing their life around. You know, people like started doing marathons or running, and not saying that that's how you change your life around, but like,
I mean, we spoke to 2 guys in the cafe with the ice cream. One of them was the 3rd place finisher, but his friend, we spoke to him as well. Cigarette smoker, drinker, who turned his life around and was now doing marathons.
Which is insane.
And he mentioned how the birth of his son, I think, influenced that, or his children.
Yeah, and it's like you're never really too old to do it. I mean, it's better to start when you're younger.
He was doing well. I think he finished faster than both of us. So he had really turned his life around.
Yeah, he was like, sub 3:30 or something like that, which is fucking insane for a marathon. But yeah, you're never super too old to do it. And I was going to say, it's better to start when you're younger. But yeah, it's always remember not to be stupidly harsh on yourself when you don't get it right. And that's something that you learn as you get older as well, which I love.
It's about giving credit, yeah. It's about giving credit. Something I've been practicing this year. Because you often downplay your achievements. There's always the next thing you're chasing. So I've got to take your time and, take it.
Which is one of the reasons why I'm happy we don't really do, because
people complain about small things and it's not that big. Like, it could be much, much worse. So, it's always that tricky one. But you mentioned it from a different angle. Yes, I came across it in 2nd year. And I had that period where I was I'm not doing work enough. I need to work more. Oh, I've gone out again. I've went for a beer with my mates. Now I got back on it. But then there's always a balance. Because a lot of people chase happiness. That's also not my way. I don't think that's the right way. You can never really chase happiness. You got to have goals and structure. But you got to have those moments. You got to have a balance because, again, it's social media. We see the outside of Andrew Tate, but realistically, you think he doesn't have his beer with his mates?
He definitely does.
You don't think he's got no family, he's got no kids. So work is all he ever does. Realistically, I don't want to downplay it because he's made his money, I guess, but if everyone put all their time just into work, then more people would be rich. There's a reason why everyone's not rich. Some don't want to, some can't, some don't have the knowledge, some don't have the opportunity, some don't have the ability. But a lot of people also have friends, family and stuff. If everyone lived the life of Andrew Tate, the world would finish because no one would have kids. Just think about it. If everyone would be a rich businessman, then we wouldn't raise kids. Who's going to raise the kids?
Who's
going to raise that next generation?
Which goes back to what I said to you earlier about having a simple life.
And it's about balance.
Would you rather be lonely and rich, or living within your means, but also having a lot of love and family? It's also another thing that Chris Williamson said, which I loved. He said, you can have a great career, but an average marriage, or you can have a average career but a great marriage, and you'd rather choose the latter out of the two. It's
an endless balance. To that quote was good. I've got two more which I love. One is accept that all your heroes are full of shit. Their heroes aren't God. They're just regular people who got good at one thing by sacrificing literally everything else. Number two is there's no best way to live your 20s. You either live them up and become an underskilled 30-year-old, or you work them up and become an underlived 30-year-old. Accept the trade-offs and know that there are no do-overs.
What do you mean by that one? So underskilled 30-year-old or underdeveloped?
There's no better way to live your 20s. You either work them up and become an underlived 30-year-old in the way that you haven't had as much fun and you haven't had as much cool experiences because you've worked your way through them. Or you live them up. By live them up, it means have fun, go on adventures,
But you haven't
have fun experience.
skills.
But you become an underskilled 30-year-old. Accept the trade-offs and know that there are no do-overs. You can't do it again. And one favourite one I've got is if they don't have what you want, and that's my favourite, don't listen to what they say. There's no greater waste of time than justifying your actions to people who have a life you don't want. And that's helped me a lot because I look at a person and they give me advice and I look at them in that specific sector because a fitness coach will give me good and then I look at that person in that specific sector and I'm like, do I want to be where you are in that sense? So, for example, if a journalist from Sky is giving me advice on a journalism career, then I will very much listen because I want to be where he is in 30 years from now. But if that same journalist, I don't know, or that same person is divorced and has no kids and is giving me family advice, then no. Because he's not in a position to tell me, and vice versa. So that's sort of my thinking. And that's really it's always about balance. Because, for example, I can't lie, mate. I don't know. Maybe for you it's not that deep. I get frustrated coming 170th in a marathon. Like, I can accept it for now, but in the long run, having done 2-3 races, there will come a point where I'm like, okay, I want to be coming in the top 3 myself. But then to do that, I need to sacrifice a lot. And it's that decision you make where would I want to go back to a lifestyle where I'm working out 6 times a week, watching every calorie, and working and doing that if I want to come third in a marathon, like that guy we met in the ice cream shop.
But what if you come third in a marathon? What happens next?
You don't know. But it's a question of how important that goal is.
And is it really that important?
Well,
how much have you sacrificed to get to that?
It might be important enough to someone, might not be important to someone else.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd rather just get a quicker time. I don't think I'm gonna be super stressed out and super upset about I don't get into the top 10 or whatever. But I'd want to do bigger ones, like move up and do ultras and Ironmans and whatever. I don't think I'm gonna be sitting around heartbroken about not coming in the top 5. I think that for me, I don't think I would intrinsically feel as good about that.
You see, it's so different, isn't it? It's so individual, and it's a question of it's all about balance. It really is, and it's an endless chase of balance.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things we want to do, and we try to.
There is. Do you think would ever get you to do an ultra?
Yeah, it's 50 or more than that, 60.
Anything above a 20, anything above a normal marathon is an ultra marathon. So
yeah, most certainly. With proper preparation.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything else like I did off the blue.
Well, David Goggins, he did a 100-mile race without barely any practice, like 20-minute cardio sessions a week, and he almost died. Like I think it's his partner, his wife at the time. If she didn't have a doctor friend, he would have never lived to tell the story. So what I'm trying to say is don't go into it without any preparation. But mate,
I needed to do that specific one in May because it was after my grandma passed away, and it was another reason for me to do it.
and it's the best chance for you to do it, isn't it?
And it was symbolic here, with you before I leave.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'm sure we'll get another chance to do another one together. Probably not the Exeter one. I think I like the Exeter one, but I'm ready for another one. I think I'd rather might want to do one abroad, like I was saying to you about the Paris one earlier, or somewhere else. I like the idea of running for another country. Not really knowing anything about it, but also getting to see it, doing something I enjoy, which is running.
There's one in every city, I think. There's one in Moscow. There was a recent one in Moscow as well.
How much is it to fly over to Moscow?
Is it a good time now? Oh, it's awful, mate. No, it's like £500 one way, so sorry.
But how much if you book it in advance?
What?
Like, how far in advance do you book your tickets?
Oh, no, they just don't. They cost no matter how much. Turkish Airlines to Moscow costs £500, regardless if you book it the morning before or 3 months in advance. It's a fixed price. And honestly, mate, I would not advise you to go. I love you too much to invite you right now. It's not a good time.
When the war's over.
When the war's over, mate, by all means.
I'd love to come.
We're a wonderful country. I always talk about it. When I have a beer, the first thing I mention always is I get upset. Well, the war, I highly condemn the invasion. I speak about it a lot. But also, it upsets me of the shattered reputation. Because over the 2000s and then 2010s, Russia had its... People were giving it a side eye sometimes at the political stage. But we sort of established some sort of good reputation, good relationship with the West in a way. And the World Cup 2018 and a number of other events that we hosted really revealed us in good light, to the point where a lot of foreigners stayed and lived in Russia, and it really showed that we can be welcoming, we could interact successfully with other cultures. And we created a good reputation for ourselves, and we shattered it. It was literally blown away in a space of a few weeks in 2022, and it will take years to get rebuilt as well, even if everything stops right now and they somehow negotiate a peace treaty or a 30-day unconditional ceasefire, which gets talked about in the news. There will never be, not never, but it will take ages to re-establish that reputation. That upsets me. But again, if it ends, I always tell my friends, come. It's a lovely city. It's got great cultural heritage, lots of tourist attractions, wonderful opportunities for a more chill day. I've got a nice big house, so you're always welcome, mate. There'll be a spare room for you waiting. And there's a lot of marathons though everywhere in Europe. I think every city has its runs. But England is probably one of the best out there in terms of organisation. And I don't think every country has a marathon in every city. The Exeter has got 10 races a year just in Exeter. There's literally one more river run on June 27th for 10k.
That's good.
So they literally do stuff all the time here, and I think it's great. England, that's one of the reasons I love England, how much they organise for people, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think something you said to me is actually how good our country is. We've got a really good country here, and it made me more appreciative actually of my own country as well. It's nice to go to other countries and appreciate them, but yeah, I do love England. I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be.
It's a good country. It really is. Things are run well here.
Yeah.
And it's very much democratic, even if people don't think so here. Much more than it could be.
Yeah. Definitely worse of places to be.
It is a country for the people. Even if people don't think so. By my standards and from what I've seen, it's a country for the people.
Yeah, there's a lot of good people. A lot of good people here.
No, it's one of the last things I'll say is I got warned a lot that when you come to the UK, you're Russian, you might get mistreated. Those are all just false accusations, false warnings, nothing like that. I got treated as a citizen of the world, I guess. I don't know, a cosmopolitan, but just as a normal student, normal person next, regardless of my passport, and that's been a pleasant surprise for me because that's not something I hoped for initially. When the war started, there were elements of me that, would scare me. And I mean, some people know me as Mikey or Michael because that's how I introduced myself at the beginning, not Mikhail, which is actually my name because, you don't want to stand out too much. You don't want to tell the story 52.5 times in a row. So And now it's gone to the better. So
You fit in really well.
I think so too.
Right, man. We've been going for almost 2 hours. Well, on an hour, 1 hour 43 minutes. It's pretty good. I had the timer go off earlier, and it felt like it's been 5 minutes. You know,
I know, right?
It's something I love about podcasts, and sometimes I don't enjoy doing it as much as I used to. But like, you get into it, you have a nice conversation, and it actually like an hour and a bit goes like 10 minutes,
And
it's
it links
crazy.
from one point to another, and everything becomes interconnected.
And it's beautiful. It's brilliant, isn't it? It's like, it's quite. I wouldn't say if it's art. I don't know if it would call it art, but it's definitely lovely to have these conversations recorded. So one thing I always ask a guest is, do you have any socials, or like, you know, your social handles like Instagram or whatever you want people to find you on? And I don't know if that many people listen to this. It's probably just you and Cornelia, and that's about it. Maybe Mateus and Jalen. But yeah, you please feel free to like shout out yourself on any socials.
Yeah, it's at Mikhail Shklover, MikhilShklover. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, any socials. Yeah, find me. Once I finish uni, I aim to become much more active. When my journalist career commences in September, I expect to become 100 times more active than I am now. But at the moment, focus is still with academia. So yeah, any of that. I mean, probably most of the listeners would have those platforms already, and me added. But yeah, any of those platforms, and yeah,
Thank you, man, for coming on.
mate, massive pleasure. I think I told you before we started, it was one thing that we've been planning for a while. Out of all the things that we haven't done yet, so I think everything we set out to do, sort of September last year, I think we've done everything now, and this podcast was on that list. And I'm glad you found the time after work to host it, and it was a pleasure coming on.
It's a nice way to wrap up our time together, isn't it? Next,
for sure.
one thing actually before we go was it's actually quite nice to see how your perception changes on doing like creative stuff. Like for me, when I was younger, I could never imagine myself having people like doing like these sorts of podcasts and then posting it on like YouTube or Spotify or whatever, and having the thought of people listening to it, because there's always that thought of like, oh shit, people are going to laughing at you. And then when you see your friends do it, you actually quite get inspired by it. I don't know if you've had that, like seeing your friends do that sort of thing. It's actually really nice to have, you know, people within that group that support each other, you know, not put each other down.
When you hear other people's thoughts and they're interesting, you want to communicate your ones across as well, contribute to the endless discussion of life, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's always rewarding to do so.
It is. Thank you.
Man, thanks. Bye-bye.